All right, we got some big news. I want to break down why Republicans and Donald Trump are increasingly nervous heading into the midterms because last night they just got a big red warning sign, another big red warning sign in Tennessee's 7th congressional district after a Democrat still lost but outperformed the last election by 13 to 14 points. A deep, deep red district swung within shooting distance for a Democrat to come in and just snipe and grab this district. Let me run you down what happened because Republican leaders from Speaker of the House Mike Johnson and other leaders have deployed millions of dollars of resources. Hell, Speaker of the House Mike Johnson took a personal visit to Tennessee's 7th congressional district, and they still got this close to losing. This is not a good sign for the Republican Party, and we'll break all of this down. Make sure you drop a like and subscribe for constant updates every single day, and let's just start here. Any smart Republican understands the writing on the wall that if a 14-point shift is recreated across the country in the midterms, they are beyond cooked. But we had some dumb Republicans on Twitter like this guy, Red Eagle Politics. He said, "Eat shit, Dems. Oh, you almost had it." And someone responded, "Why the F are you celebrating a 19-point underperformance?" This went viral because the dumbest of Republicans are out there like popping bottles and shit, and they legitimately had it's like a 16 to 19-point underperformance, somewhere in that range. Not a good performance for them. Wu-Tang says Trump is celebrating a 9-point win in a deep red Tennessee district that he won by 22 points. This was a terrible night for Republicans, a terrible night. And Trump posted, "Congratulations to Matt Van Epps on his big congressional win in the great state of Tennessee. The radical left Democrats threw everything at him." In fact, it was the other way around. They made the Republican Party in Tennessee, the Democratic candidate's race, Afton Bain, she made the Republican Party spend $3 million on a Trump plus 2022 district in rural Tennessee. There's more stats that I want to dig into, but it's absolutely stunning. What should be a safe red seat was basically up for grabs. A lot of the polling said it was within 5 to 6 points, and it ended up being a 9-point win, which was awful. It is terrifying for any Republican in any even sort of contested seat. Imagine being a Republican in a seat that you won by 7 points. You won this by 7 points, and you're supposed to be comfortable in your seat, right? But then you see a 9-point shift in deep, deep red Tennessee after they spent millions of dollars. And by the way, the RNC currently has a decent amount of cash, but when vulnerable seats like this are up for grabs and they're forced to spend $3 million, they are using resources. They are expending resources that they could be using in the midterm. So we are weakening the enemy, we are showing their weak points, and we are expending their resources. On top of all of this, 1 month ago, almost exactly, on November 4th, we won multiple special elections, even putting New York City to the side, because that was a huge win for progressive candidates, but that was a blue city. Putting that to the side, even in other areas like Georgia, even in West Virginia, in other states, we won and flipped seats that were red. The West Virginia governorship flipped from red to blue. In Georgia, we won statewide races that we hadn't won in, I believe, 19 years. It was almost 20 years since we'd won a race like that. So the Democratic momentum is building up, and this comes at a very key moment when Trump's, I was going to say momentum, but any sort of momentum that he had coming into the White House is waning rapidly. We see it dissolving in front of us as he can't spin for the Epstein files, as he can't effectively make his way through a single cabinet meeting without falling asleep. And very quickly, let's read this more. Jake Rubenstein says, "Need people to not lose track of the fact that Bain was outspent, with the vast majority of that money coming in late. Afton Bain in Tennessee's 7th district was outspent $3.3 million. To her, $2.4 million. Most of the money came in very, very late for Afton Bain, and with the other Republican candidate, they had been running ads relentlessly in the district, trying to paint her as some radical left lunatic. We still got close. I know this one's going to hurt to hear, but I think this also does indicate how weak the Dems were in 2024 due to a few issues. There was, of course, some pretty serious inflation under Biden, which left a bad taste in voters' mouths, and I think we could have come back from that, but Biden wasn't effectively able to make the case because near near the end of his campaign, he was really struggling at the debates to make his case. Then Kamala comes in, and of course, being a woman in politics is an uphill battle. Being a black woman in politics, a doubly uphill battle. It's hard, and people a lot of times voted against her because she was a woman, but she also had 100 days to run her race, and she didn't effectively separate herself from Biden. She kind of ran as Biden's number 2, so people associated her with the status quo, and people didn't want the status quo. So Kamala ran a pretty good campaign. She had 107 days. She did her thing. That was good. But I do think there were some unforced errors in not distancing herself from Biden. All of this is to say the Democratic ticket seemed to have been weaker than normal. We didn't have the time to make our case and sell ourselves to the American people. I blame it partially on Biden at this point, just to be candid. But this proves that the Democratic brand isn't toxic. The Democratic Party isn't in the gutter or completely toxic. We have the ability to rebuild trust with communities. It just takes time. Another interesting point is that we had identical turnout to 2022. In the 2022 race, we saw 180,000 people turn out in this district. And then in the 2025 race, we saw 179,000 people turn out. So the same amount of people showed up, but there was a 13% swing to the left. So just to reiterate, when both elections are able to recreate turnout, but that same exact turnout has swung to the left, imagine that being recreated, even partially, on the national stage. Isaiah Martin posted, while the results were coming in last night, he said, regardless of what happens tonight, Afton Bain is outperforming Trump by 20 points in rural Tennessee, and that's awesome. That's a huge swing of people saying they're done with Republican BS. DNC chair Ken Martin comes out with a great statement, says, what happened tonight in Tennessee makes it clear. Democrats are on the offense, Republicans are on the ropes. Afton Bain's overperformance in this Trump plus 2022 district is historic and a flashing warning sign for Republicans heading into the midterms. Afton centered her campaign on lowering grocery, housing, and healthcare costs for Tennessee families. Her Republican opponent ran his campaign focused on Donald Trump, and he had to get bailed out by a massive Republican spending onslaught to barely hold his traditionally safe Republican seats. The fact that Republicans spent millions to protect this Trump 2022 district, plus 2022 district, and still lost so much ground should have the GOP shaking in their boots. Democrats are all gas and no brakes as we head into next year, organizing everywhere and competing in elections across the country. I can't lie, that statement got me pretty hyped. That's pretty good messaging. And guess what? Here on the Adam Mockler channel, we're going to be leading the way and punching back against MAGA and making sure that every single win comes through hard work. Something that I really enjoy doing is going out and debating in these MAGA spaces and making sure that we're using good, efficient messaging. So I hope that that's something that shows on this channel, that we really do try to make sure the messaging is efficient and appeals to people who need to be won over. Like when I go on CNN, I make sure that it's clear the point that I'm making. Brooklyn Dad Defiant says, Afton Bain wasn't even supposed to be close to winning her race in deep red Tennessee, yet here she is on election night, with a chance. Obviously, this was as the election results were coming in last night, but it says here she is with a chance to continue. Holy shit, some counties swinging 27 points to the Dems in Tennessee, says Kyle Kulinski. Don Winslow comes in with some pessimism after the loss came in. Don Winslow says, we lost in Tennessee tonight. Stop saying this is still a win. No, it's not. There are no participation trophies fighting Trump. It's win or lose, and don't tell me how far we came from the last election. We lost. This isn't about how far we came or how hard we tried. And I understand this sentiment. I get it. But people in the replies point out, if you can't appreciate a 15-point swing and what that means for Democrats in a place like Tennessee 7, then come on. Yes, we lost a battle, but it's a huge step. Grant Smith says, stop with the negativity. Don't dismiss the hard work her and her team put in the almost 10 years of community organizing in this specific district that Afton Bain had to put in, that her team had to put in. So while I understand the pessimism from Don Winslow, I get it. We have a lot of work to do. We're still losing the broader fight because we're out of power. Whenever we're locked out of power, we are de facto just losing. We need to win back the messaging war. We need to win back power and then undo everything. Until that, we are still fighting an uphill battle. I get what he's saying, But at the end of the day, come on, this is a really, really big win, and a lot of people worked their asses off. Do you know how many people I'm sure like spent less time with their families or their kids or their relatives so they can invest that time into our democracy over the past decade, but especially over the past few months of this campaign? People are fighting, people are working, and we are swinging it back. All of us together that are either watching these videos or the people on my team that helped me make these videos, we're all fighting the same battle. So I think it's something that we should celebrate because we're all in the same battle and we are making ground. I love you all. Let's continue to fight back, and peace out.